After facing the agony of defeat 3 weeks in a row, Syracuse got over the hump with a tough win down in Blacksburg. Now back at 500, Dino Babers and company have their eyes set on a greater goal, to return to a bowl game for the first time since 2019. Standing in SU's way is an old Big East foe in Boston College who looks to halt a staunch Orange rushing game and leave the Salt City with a win for the third consecutive year. If that doesn't draw you in, don't worry, because we're here to break it all down on the latest edition of Cuse Countdown that starts now.
Welcome into the CitrusTV studio. Noah Cierzan here alongside Jared Johnston and Spencer Pierce previewing SU's showdown against Boston College this weekend. Boy, oh boy, it's going to be a fun one on homecoming weekend. But before we talk Eagles, let's take it back to Hokie Land real quick. The Orange hit the road looking for their first ACC win a week ago. And thanks to a 14-point, 2-minute stretch in the fourth quarter, capped off by a Damian Alford 45-yard touchdown with 19 seconds left, SU finally came on the right side of a closely contested game. The coaching wasn't pretty at all times. In fact, it was ugly, especially at the end of the first half, but Syracuse secured its first conference win, and for the fourth game in a row, guys, it was the offense carrying the load and leading the team to victory, which is especially precarious considering this is a team, Jared, that we consider to be a defense-first team to start the year.
Yeah, no, well, that was definitely the thought because go back to last season, this was the team with the best turnover rate in the country, 24 in 11 games, but you come into this season, if you got a rush game that's as good as it is, with Sean Tucker leading the nation in rushing yards and Garrett Schrader with the second most rushing TDs in the nation, haven't even started all the games, like that's what's going to have to drive you over the hump in the future.
All right, man, I believe you, but I'm going to start the show with a flaming hot take, actually. I'm not really impressed with the Syracuse defense to start the season, at least. You look at teams like Ohio, 93rd in total offense in the country. Albany, we don't really have to speak about Albany. We kind of did that. Liberty, 45th. You know, they have Malik Willis, obviously he's the exception. But we're getting to the time in the year where the offense and defense have kind of gelled together, and they're going to be able to pull out these games.
Yeah, needless to say, that offense has been key, and you can't talk about it without talking about one Sean Tucker. The second-year freshman has pleased Syracuse fans all season long with his performance, and that was no different against Vod Tech. Thanks to his 7th 100-yard game of the season, Tucker has amassed 1,000 yards on the ground, and he's well on pace to break the program rushing record of 1,372 yards set by Joe Morris in 1972. And Spencer, it really can't be understated how dominant Tucker has been.
Yeah, he's more than important to this team. You look at some of the other running backs, the top running backs in the country. You got Trevion Henderson of Ohio State. They run the #1 highest powered offense in the country. Bijan Robinson of Texas comes in at number 25, and Kenneth Walker, Michigan State, runs the number 26 offense. You can't explain enough how good Sean Tucker is, especially behind this spotty offensive line.
Oh yeah, Spencer, and I think he's absolutely Heisman material, but what's despicable is if you look at his odds on a short list, he's not even on the top 25. I'm seeing Bryce Young, a quarterback. I'm seeing Kenny Pickett, a quarterback. And the earliest running back at 5th is Kenneth Walker, and if he's on that Michigan State team, just behind Sean Tucker in rushing yards, if you take him out of that team, they're getting going with the passing game. Sean Tucker is absolutely the most valuable player to a team in college football, and again, it's just despicable that he's not even considered yet.
Jared, I'll tell you, people in the Salt City don't care about those Heisman odds because Tucker has been a big story all season long, but he wasn't the only shining star on SU's offense last Saturday, as Damian Alford had the game-winning grab against the Hokies, which earned him an all-time comparison from Coach Babers.
He is the classic movie Bambi. Okay, he's the classic where you got little Bambi and mom's taking care of him, right, and showing him the ropes, and then mom tells Bambi to run, and mom doesn't make it, and Bambi gets to the forest, and then the big buck takes Bambi underneath his wings, and Bambi grows into a big buck. Well, we don't have that yet. We still got Bambi with mom, and we're looking forward to when he starts growing some horns.
You guys catch all that? I'm not sure we'll get a better quote the rest of the season from Babers, but he does raise a good point that Alford is still growing into the potential of his massive 6'6" frame. So, Jared, just how close is Alford, or really any SU receiver, to being the guy for the Orange?
Oh, yeah, no, and I don't think it's close yet, but what I think it's definitely progress for this Syracuse offense, because Spencer, when I'm looking at this team, they were satisfied last season with Taj Harris getting his 3 receptions, his long reception for a touchdown, and losing the game. This season, I like those contributions. You're seeing Damian Alford chipping in. You're seeing Sherrod Johnson. You're seeing a lot of other guys that are able to get in kind of those supplementary yards to contribute on a collective. So, yes, Damian Alford does have a huge frame that he can grow into, and a lot of those other guys have it as well. But it's going to take some time, and they're going to need to get used to the play calling as well. So it's a good start for the team.
Did Dino forget the part in Bambi where he gets shot? Like, I'm hoping that doesn't translate to anyone's play, but let's make this into a Dino-ology. This is chess. Alford, Jackson, and the other wide receivers are basically the pawns in a game where Sean Tucker is king. They just use the receivers to kind of keep the defense on their toes. I don't think it's anything more than that.
Well, Spencer, we got to talk about the guy who's feeding the ball to all those receivers, the quarterback leading the Orange into battle. A certain Charlotte native is becoming a fan favorite of late, but it hasn't always been peaches and cream for SU's newest star.
Shotgun snap, SHRADER heaves it up, trying to find Alford. It's caught at the 10. Touchdown! Damian Alford gives Syracuse the lead with 19 seconds left.
That score secured SU its first conference win of the year and helped Mississippi State transfer Garrett Schrader silence his critics once again. Schrader now has 18 total touchdowns in his 5 starts, and although it's been a winding road to get to this point, he finally feels like he has a home.
This is my 3rd staff in 3 years. I definitely wouldn't have believed that part of it. But, I mean, I really wouldn't have it any other way. I've learned a lot, I've grown a lot, matured a lot, and met a lot of good people along the way. But I'm glad I'm here. Got a great opportunity.
Schrader has had to work through transitioning to wideout in Starkville and being the backup to start the year in Syracuse. But one commonality between everybody in SU's locker room has helped him get to this point.
Everybody's really passionate and excited. Dudes are really excited when they walk in the door every morning, even though it's raining almost every day and weeks become a drag because we played however many games straight. But they're very passionate and we do a lot of good things, and we continue to work and grow together.
Might not be used to the weather up in Syracuse, but his passion for football has allowed him to excel on the field. We know he can run the ball and recently throw the ball, but Spencer, what makes Schrader so special?
Well, what makes him so special, we're going to rank him. Let's go to number 3. What makes Garrett Schrader, is his toughness. You saw at the end of the Virginia Tech game, he got blasted, all caps, and got right back up. He's a guy that gets hit, he's going to get on the ground, and he's going to come back up and say, I'm going to run all over your defense, and there's nothing you can do about it. We're going to go to number 2 now, his resiliency. This is a guy that knew Tommy DeVito and Dino Babers were tied together at the hip. Reminds me a lot of Jim Boeheim, and Joe Girard. Those are their guys. Schrader came into a spiraling program from, honestly, not that good of a college season, and he took the job. Not only did he take the job, he took Dino's guy, threw him in the garbage, and made him transfer. What do you have to say about that resiliency? I admire it. And we're going to go to number 1, Garrett Schrader, his versatility outside the pocket. We talked a little bit about his intangibles. Now let's talk about what he does best. He runs. Tommy DeVito was sacked 6 times in 2 and a quarter games. Garrett Schrader's only been sacked 8 times, and like we talked about before, he has a spotty offensive line, and he makes plays with his legs. Jared, did you just call me over there? I gotta go. Explosiveness is what they called me in high school. I haven't run that fast since they opened the Chinese food buffet at Ernie Davis Cafeteria. Now another guy that's just as explosive as me, some would say, Garrett Schrader on the Syracuse offense. Can you tell me a little bit more about him, but in the air?
Oh yeah, Spencer. Talk about some North Carolina barbecue. Garrett Schrader is great on the ground, but that's why Virginia Tech was kind of standoffish here with the Tampa 2 when he had to pass the ball. 2 safeties, all of this really space here for the 4 wide receivers to get in here. And it's Courtney Jackson taking advantage of that space in between all of these covers here, making that play happen with the curl route. And really, Garrett Schrader against Virginia Tech, first time he threw for over 200 yards since October of 2019 because he had that space. And BC's not going to give him that space. We saw a game last week against Louisville. Malik Cunningham, the quarterback who's also a run-first guy, and they're not scared of it. Sending all that pressure, and we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys really stacking the box, forcing him with pressure to make the play. And you saw Josh DeBerry on coverage on the 3rd and 7, making sure that they could get the job done. 70% of third down stops were good for BC. 14th in the nation, making sure they can stop those plays. They are eager and hungry to get in on defense, for sure.
All right, eager and hungry was my second nickname in high school. 70% is what I got on my psychology test. I'm really sorry, Mom. Now, can you tell me about where Garrett Schrader thrives? May it be on the ground?
Yeah, we talked about how his passing game really isn't the reliable thing because the run game is where he makes his money here. It's his bread and butter because he has time and space drawn out by Dino Babers and the coaching staff. Design play. 4 receivers, Courtney Jackson among others, making those runs, taking away space, giving Garrett Schrader that option to see the field, especially that right side where he's able to see all of that vacated green space and make the run for a first down and then some. For if you're Syracuse, that pass game maybe won't be as successful against BC, and the run game surely will be pressed heavily by all of those defensive players. They're going to get in eager early on that Syracuse offense for sure.
All right, well, makes sense to me. Noah, what do you have for us over there?
Yeah, Spencer, seems like Schrader might be slinging the ball a bit better of late, but will he be able to do it against the Eagles? We'll give you the rundown of this Boston College squad after the break. Welcome back into Cuse Countdown. Noah Cierzan here alongside Jared Johnston and Spencer Pierce. Guys, we've talked about the Orange, so now it's time to break down Boston College. The Eagles were able to get off to a hot start to the year, but when you compare the first 4 to the last 3, doesn't look great. After scoring 41 points per game in those first 4 games, the Eagles haven't been able to muster more than 14 in ACC play. Tack on 7 turnovers in those 3 games, and you've got some sloppy football. The man, of course, leading the Eagles down this long and winding road is Jeff Hafley. He took over the program in 2020 after Steve Adazio was let go. And say what you want about the state of this Boston College offense, Jared, Hafley knows a thing or two on defense.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's fast forward to his NFL timeline, where in 2012 he was with the Bucs. He had 3rd place in this category, 21 interceptions on the season. Then he kind of continued to progress, got to BC as as the head coach, and he had the 13th best recruiting class in the nation in 2020. But again, this team is struggling because of the loss of their starting quarterback. It's not his fault in the end, in my opinion.
So if Jeff Hafley is the commander, let's take a look at his soldiers. Jared, who's your player to watch this week?
My player to watch, shining soldier here in armor, Josh DeBerry. You know what? He's very good. I got to look at him. He's a quarterback, 2nd on his team, total tackles, 37 in 7 games. And he's behind Isaiah Grant Mobley, who's a linebacker, so that's natural. But you got to watch him because BC plays man coverage, and especially against an average Syracuse passing game, DeBerry's going to try to disrupt the play, put as much pressure as he can on receivers. He has 2 interceptions on the year, but his biggest impact will be his patience to know when to pounce, not overcommit on those routes. He's just going to be huge for BC in this game.
Well, you want to talk about a guy with fire coming out of his feet? Let's go to Big Play Zay. He had an amazing September, had over 270 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. He slowed down a little bit. He will kill you in the 1st and 4th quarters, specifically the 4th quarter. He's not going to be a big factor in the game if the SU corners can limit him, but he's essentially BC's only option other than their tight end Trey Berry, not DeBerry.
Yeah, Spencer, Zay Flowers is a big playmaker, but Pat Garwo may be the cog that turns the wheel for this offense. Standing at 5'8", Garwo is listed at 214 pounds, which just shows you the kind of back he is. He's a guy that wants to go north and south and averages 6.1 yards per carry on the season. And when you look over at that mess of a quarterback situation BC has on its hands currently, feeding Garwo is the Eagles' best form of offense. Expect a very, very physical game in the trenches. I just mentioned it. A little bit of a notable omission from players to watch this week was the fact that we didn't cover the quarterback position for the Eagles because it has been a disaster, guys. BC, of course, had a solid starter in Phil Jerkovic. He goes down for the year. Dennis Grossell comes in, and it's, quite frankly, been horrid, Spencer.
Yeah. I mean, the guy has a family. We could be a little bit nicer. I think he's just fine. He just goes out there and he's he's a fine quarterback. I mean, this is a guy that he's quite literally, his numbers aren't stunning. He really doesn't run well. He doesn't pass well. All right, maybe he's not as fine as I'm making him out to be. Here's a funny little stat, though. His QBR last game against Louisville, 15!
Spencer, I mean, I'll give you another pun here. He is grossly abysmal. The worst quarterback in the ACC, man. I mean, if you measure him against conference opponents, 2 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He's thrown for over 200 yards once against Clemson, but really he's just been the least efficient quarterback in the country. I mean, 99 to be exact, 4 behind Garrett Schrader. But he just ain't got no legs, man. Like, he can't even run the ball. That's the reason why he sucks. He cannot get the job done in any facet of the game as a quarterback.
Yeah, I think another fun stat that should be mentioned for our viewers is that Spencer is on drugs because this quarterback stinks. It also should be noted that Jeff Hafley has decided on the quarterback situation. We don't know who's going to be the starter yet. We're going to have to hit a quick break here on Cuse Countdown. But when we come back, we'll put Jared and Spencer's SAT vocabulary to the test and see how they fill in the blank. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in 60.
Looking for these? You drive Buzzed. It could be one very expensive ride.
First, you gotta make bail. Then pay me to get your car back.
Your insurance premiums will go through the roof.
And my legal fees just keep adding up. All told, it could end up costing you $10,000.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for information on how to provide even better care for the person who wants to care of.
Welcome back into the CitrusTV studio. Noah Cierzan here alongside my esteemed academics, Jared Johnston and Spencer Pierce. And we teased it a bit before the break, but it is time to put your verbiage to the test in a game we'd like to call here on Cuse Countdown, Fill in the Blank. I'm going to give you a couple phrases related to Saturday's matchup, and as the game states, you guys will fill in the blank however you see fit. And we're going to start out at the quarterback position with the man who is tied for 4th in the country in rushing scores on Syracuse. So fill in the blank, Jared. Garrett Schrader will be blank against BC.
All right, Noah, Garrett Schrader will be shellacked against BC. And it's not for the reason you think. I don't think that he's going to have a bad game per se, but he's going to be torn apart really by this BC defense. They're going to be taking their time really, trying to push guys into that line because like I said, the man-to-man coverage is going to be tough to pass. They're just going to throw guys into making sure that they can get right there into those A gaps, B gaps, really stop and block up that line.
Hard to disagree. I think Garrett Schrader is going to be bored with this BC defense. I think there's going to be a lot of Sean Tucker handoffs, and I think Schrader's going to be able to shred this defense. How's that for alliteration, SAT man?
I think that's pretty good. I'm not sure that shellacked was ever in any standardized test. Nonetheless, I'll accept it on our little game here. We're going to take it to the other sideline because it's been a completely different story. BC is a very run-oriented team. We talked about the quarterback injuries already. So fill in the blank. Jared, you're first this time. BC's quarterback will look blank against SU.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this, BC's quarterback will look clueless against SU, Noah, and I'll tell you why, really. Like I said earlier in the show, he's thrown an interception in every single start that he's had. He's been terrible against ACC play, and really he looks like Forrest Gump when he was younger in those movies. He's wearing braces around his legs. He can't even move. He got negative 16 yards against Louisville. Negative 16. He can't run the ball out of the pocket. He can't pass the ball. He underthrows it all the time, 17 for 32 in that game. He just sucks.
Whoa, I mean, once again, the guy's got a family. I think BC's quarterback will look spooked. Yeah, that's topical. Happy Halloween. I think he's going to be spooked. You got guys like Marlo Wax, Cody Roscoe. These are some guys that are going to go after him and go for his head.
Yeah, extra points for using the word spooked. I use that in my verbiage every single day, even when it's not Halloween season. Somebody for Syracuse that could make it a long day for Grossell is the guy in the middle for that defense, Cody Roscoe, who is top 10 in the nation in sacks. I'm going to you first this time, Spencer. So fill in the blank. Cody Roscoe will perform blank against BC.
Cody Roscoe will perform menacingly because the guy is a menace. This is a guy that, like you said, Noah, he's top 10 in sacks in the entire country. I believe he's third. He's a guy, and Grissel is not a guy. A guy's guy, a football guy. Ever heard of him?
Yep,
Grissel can't move out of the pocket. He's got no legs like Forrest Gump, like Jared said. I really think that Roscoe is going to obliterate him.
Oh yeah, Spencer, I absolutely agree with you, but I'm going to keep it with the M here, and I'm going to say he's going to perform mercilessly. You look at Cody Roscoe, and he's a guy that's just going to get the job done any which way. 33 total tackles, 6.5 sacks, and he's had 2 in the last 3 games as far as sacks go, but he hasn't gotten a huge number of tackles as of late against ACC play. But what's huge and what I love about him, his ability to move around lines, move around guys, and get the job done. He's shifty with it, with his big body, and that's the biggest thing that's going to help this team, especially going to the future when they want to get wins for bowl season.
Yeah, Roscoe, a transfer who came into this program, definitely been a valuable asset for this team. Guys, real quick on this final topic, we got to talk about the man up top head coach for Syracuse. Syracuse right now sitting at 500, which is solid for a team some predicted to only win 2 or 3 games. Kind of some mixed signals coming out, what people think. So Jared, you know, for this final one, we're going, Dino Babers' coaching has been blank so far this year.
Oh, Dino Babers' coaching has been inept so far this year. He doesn't even deserve a plate of dinosaur barbecue, Spencer. I mean, when you look at this guy, you know he's been the problem for this team and all of the problems they had thus far, when everything that he operates is what's being scrutinized. Look at the run game. He doesn't really control that much. That's the brilliance of Sean Tucker. The defense with Tony White has been tremendous. And when you look at Dino, everything that's been scrutinized is the play calling, the decision making, the timeouts that have been burned off the clock and put your team in predicaments. For Dino, again, look at this example I got here. Clemson, Sean Tucker had 132 yards in the first half. Then he touched the ball 3 times in 20 minutes after that. It's got to be better decision making week in, week out.
Well, you kind of teed me up there. Around these parts, I like to call him Dinosaur Babercue. Not my finest, but it makes me laugh, and that's all that matters. Clearly, I'm a little bit of a psycho. Dino Babers' coaching has been disheartening this year. He's beat Ohio. You're supposed to beat Ohio. He's beat Albany. You're supposed to beat Albany. There was a little bit of hope when they beat Liberty, but then you're dropping teams, or games rather, to teams that you're not supposed to be losing. Florida State, the Virginia Tech game, for example, way too close for what it should have been.
Yeah, you guys may not be in support, but it should be noted, Jim Boeheim spent about 3 minutes in his latest press conference praising that run game for Babers. Great words, by the way. I really loved them. We're going to have to hit one more quick break here on Cuse Countdown, but when we come back, we'll close things out with soup and predictions. Why the soup? Got to stick around to find out.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes? B, console her?
Don't worry, sweetie. This is gonna happen a lot.
Or C, find her a new boyfriend?
Nice single boys. was weird.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
It's a beautiful day out here. Sunny today with light breezes, giving way to clouds in the afternoon. We could see some light precipitation to moderate precipitation later on, followed by powerful storm-like conditions. 90 miles per hour winds are expected. Authorities are asking everyone, stay indoors. Come on, that's it. Let's go.
Welcome back into the CitrusTV studio. Noah Cierzan, Jared Johnston, Spencer Pierce, closing things down on this edition of Cuse Countdown. We've given you a full rundown of this matchup, but it's time to give you our predictions. And as everyone knows, we are officially in soup season, really exciting time of year. So we're going to serve up some piping hot, bold predictions in a very, very freshly baked warm bread bowl. So Jared, we'll go to you first. What's your hot soup for Saturday?
Yeah, for this, Syracuse will get over 3 turnovers. I think they're primed for a breakout game in this BC game. Firstly, because we talked about how the quarterback hasn't been great. But I expect a polar opposite, really, response from Syracuse. I mean, I said that Grossell has tossed an interception every game he's played. I think that the Syracuse team, while they've their highest, really, output that they've gotten is 2 turnovers in the game. 1 fumble recovery, 1 interception. That was by Deuce Chestnut in the Ohio game as well. But I expected, again, the tape that I saw, Grossell underthrowing everything he possibly could. These receivers are just going to eat all of that up.
Speaking of eating it up, it is soup season. I got Garrett Schrader and Sean Tucker combining for 325 yards on the ground. It's basically a guarantee that they're going to combine for 200. They got over 300 against a team like Wake Forest. Maybe it's not that hot. Noah, you're the soup aficionado here. Maybe it's scalding hot. Is it like a clam chowder or a gazpacho? That's basically the pH scale of soups.
Exactly, and that's not too hot of a take considering Louisville last week rushed for over 330 rushing yards. Definitely doable. For my hot soup, I'm saying that this Boston College secondary forces at least 2 interceptions. Will pick off Garrett Schrader multiple times. They lead the ACC in interceptions currently with 8, and we talked about how great Josh DeBerry is earlier. We talked about his hair. Since the beginning of the year, he has cut his hair. He has a buzz cut now, and he says it makes him more aerodynamic on the field. So that's the breakdown you're looking for when you come into Cuse Countdown. Real quick, guys, we got to run through predictions. Spencer, we'll start with you. How do you see this one playing out?
I'm going to go SU 30-18. I got an Andre Schmidt missed kick. SU gets out in front of this one big. BC tries to come back with a 2-point conversion.
31-13 Syracuse, Nolan Spencer. Syracuse is going to pound the run, give the ball to Tucker and Schrader, and get the job done. That's what they need to do. Don't pass the ball, man. Come on.
Yeah, Jared, I also have 31 points for Syracuse, 21 for the Eagles. I think it's going to be closer than Syracuse likes. But Syracuse, fun fact, has covered in 7 out of their 8 games this season. I think they do it again in this one. So maybe sprinkle a little bit on the orange. Unfortunately, that's all the time we've got left here on this edition of Cuse Countdown. So for Jared Johnston, Spencer Pierce, I'm Noah Cierzan saying so long and have a safe Halloween, everyone.